Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on Twitter. We are presented by The Grid. As always, I am Bryson Carver. It is great to be with you on this Thursday afternoon. We have got a loaded show for you guys tonight. Going to start the show with the Bears absolutely putting it on the Patriots, which I did not see coming whatsoever. Also going to discuss, it's like a Thursday tradition on the show. More sound bites and more poor leadership from Aaron Rodgers towards not only his young receivers, but really his head coach, everybody. Going to talk about that. Going to talk about Nathaniel Hackett's job reportedly being on the line on Sunday. Okay, 8 games into his career. I think it's absolutely the right move by the Broncos. I'll discuss that. At least right move if they fire him, of course. I'll discuss that. Also, the Warriors, my Golden State Warriors, have a major defense problem through the first 4 games of the season. I'll discuss that. And at the end of the show, we got an interesting Thursday night matchup, a very spicy Thursday night matchup. The Baltimore Ravens, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2 teams that we probably saw being a little bit better than this. Certainly, Baltimore can make the case that they should be 6-1 or even 7-0. Tampa Bay can't do anything offensively. Now their defense is starting to fall down a cliff. So I'll predict that game at the end of the show. Very interesting game to start Week 8. Which, by the way, a fun fact in Week 8 coming up later in the show. But first, I got to start with that Monday night game. Chicago going into Foxborough and absolutely putting the hammer on the New England Patriots by a final score of 33-14. Chicago ran for over 200 yards, 243 to be exact. They averaged 5 yards a carry. So essentially what this was by the Chicago Bears is we know what our strength is. We know where New England has struggled at times. Let's attack that. And oftentimes coaches sort of get, sort of get in their heads a little bit. I think too much about, well, maybe we should try this. No. You got a young quarterback who's been struggling. You got an offense who's been struggling badly. You've got a defense that's been put in bad positions because of the offense, whether it be turnovers, whether it be not being able to move the football, winning the field position battle, all kinds of things going on. I have to tip the cap to Matt Eberflus. Okay, because what he did essentially is what we've praised Bill Belichick for doing for the better part of 2 decades, certainly, obviously, when he had the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. But what was sort of the thing with Belichick? The thing we knew best about him as a defensive coach. He always made you go to plan B. Whatever plan A was, whether it was to get the ball to your best skill position player, whether it was to run the football, whether it was to get your quarterback out in space, whatever it was, he's going to make you go to plan B. And if you can execute plan B well, he's going to make you go to plan C. If you could do that, if you can execute plan C well, you probably win the game. Like that was sort of the reputation of Bill Belichick, certainly since he's been in New England for the better part of 2 decades. But when you look at this, I mean, like time of possession, for example, time of possession. Okay, Chicago dominated New England, 37-22. And I'll get into the Patriots quarterback controversy in just a second because there's a lot of discussion surrounding that. But with the Bears, what I'm looking at is, okay, Justin Fields, at this point, we don't know what he is in terms of what he's capable of being as a franchise quarterback, but we certainly know what he isn't. He's not a refined pocket passer. It's okay. Plenty of guys have come into the league, not refined pocket passers. Lamar Jackson. Okay, plenty of guys have come into the NFL, and they're not perfect from the pocket, stepping in and making accurate throws down the field. But we know Justin Fields is a remarkable runner of the football, and we know that he's great getting the ball to his receivers out in space. That's exactly what Chicago did. And New England, for whatever reason, was never able to take them out of it. Now, in the defense of New England's defense, part of that is because the Patriots quarterbacks we're talking about the quarterback controversy between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. They're having like a competition in terms of who can have the most turnovers. Now it was Bailey Zappi because he played significantly longer than Mac Jones, but it was an interception party. Okay, Roquan Smith got that one at the end. Roquan Smith, terrific linebacker out of Georgia. Really the staple of that Chicago Bears defense. Okay, Eddie Jackson, the other players they got in that secondary. Chicago's defense thus far has been pretty good this season. Okay, they have held their end of the bargain. The problem is their offense through the majority of this season has been awful. And so the question for Chicago moving forward is, and that's why this Sunday's game against the Dallas Cowboys is very interesting. Dallas is 20th against the run. Chicago just finished running for essentially 250 yards against one of the greatest defensive coaches of all time. So that's going to be an interesting. That's why the Cowboys traded for that interior defensive lineman recently from the Vegas Raiders to shore up that front, because they know if Chicago has to play from behind, you got him. You got him. Chicago got out to that 10-0 lead, felt good about themselves, and they never looked back. Now, New England, obviously, Zappe led those 2 touchdown drives. Outside of that, Patriots could do absolutely nothing offensively, and Chicago, like I said, stuck to the run game, stuck to their game plan. So that game against the Cowboys on Sunday is fascinating for that reason. This is one that I looked at for the Cowboys coming in and saying, okay, this is a short week for Chicago. All right, Dax came back against Detroit, had a good second half. Kind of looks like he got his rhythm back a little bit. Chicago's defense is good, but they'll have to play from behind. Maybe they'll be a little too aggressive. Now I'm coming in saying, okay, if I'm Chicago, my thing is let's get a 10-0 lead on the Cowboys. Now, obviously, Dak Prescott, that Cowboys offense is far more capable of coming back from double digits than the New England Patriots offense is, which I've said since the offseason is one of the worst offensive cores in football. It's not even close. Okay, you got Jacoby Myers and Nelson Aguilar, who looks like the Patriots are looking to trade, and I mean it's rough times in New England, no question about it. But as far as the Patriots quarterback controversy is concerned, I'll go to what the great John Madden once said. The late great John Madden. He had a famous saying once. He said, "If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks," and that's where the Patriots are right now. Mac Jones, admit it, folks. I was right. You were wrong. It's okay. You were right. I was wrong about Joe Burrow. You were right. I was wrong about the Denver Broncos. Boy, was I wrong on the Broncos. Whew. But in terms of Mac Jones, came out of the draft in 2021 at Alabama. I said, of the 5 first-round quarterbacks, he has the greatest chance to fail because he has the lowest ceiling. He had an even greater chance to fail because of where he ended up in New England, where for the last decade, even with Brady, and Brady masked a lot of their flaws in the back half of his career in New England. But for whatever reason, New England is completely and utterly incapable of drafting any respectable key position players offensively. Their best receiver, Jacoby Myers, I'm not even sure he's a 3. You've heard me talk about Alan Lazard and the Packers. I'm not sure if he's a 2. I'm not sure if Jacoby Myers is a 3. And that's what Mac Jones has to work with. That's what Bailey Zappi has to work with. So part of Mac Jones, the reason I thought he would fail is where he landed. If he went to San Francisco, if he went to one of these teams that, offense is sort of their identity, okay, I'll give him a shot. Jimmy Garoppolo, I said Mac Jones is a poor man's Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, for all my criticism of him, he has played in a Super Bowl and he's played in an NFC Championship game. Don't think he's the reason that they got there, but nevertheless, that's the scenario. That's what's going on. But with Mac Jones, below average arm, accuracy is up and down. Now his accuracy's gone completely awry. Turning the football over at an alarmingly high rate. Okay, doesn't move well outside the pocket. If the play breaks down, it's over. Like they showed a play when he was at Alabama where he got run down. He tried to take off running, and a South Carolina, not LSU, not Florida, Georgia, a South Carolina, no disrespect, because South Carolina looks good, but a South Carolina defensive tackle ran him down. A college defensive tackle. So what's going to happen when linebackers or outside pass rushers? Then what are you going to do? So what did Mac Jones do? Came in the game once again and right off the bat turned the football over. And they got benched. I think that's what happened. He got benched for Bailey Zappi, who led back-to-back touchdown drives and then was bad the rest of the night. Turned the ball over and over and over. I think he had 3 on the night. So the Patriots quarterbacks had 4 turnovers in total. But this goes to, Asante Samuel was talking about this recently, about how Bill Belichick is an average coach without Tom Brady. Be like, oh, you can't say that. He's the greatest coach ever. He's got 6 Super Bowl rings, and look at the Super Bowls he won when Brady didn't play well. Like really, the 2 Super Bowls against the Rams, right? The Patriots offense, not the Patriots, but the Patriots offense put up only 13 points against the greatest show on turf. But the defense for the Patriots was unbelievable. Held Kurt Warner, and again, the greatest show on turf, one of the greatest offenses we've ever seen, to just 20 points, and Ty Law had a pick 6 in that game. To the credit of Brady, led that game-winning drive, okay, and won Super Bowl MVP. But to me, Belichick deserved more credit for that Super Bowl than Brady did. And then, ironically, again, the last Super Bowl that they won together against the Rams, this time the LA Rams, back in Super Bowl 53 in Atlanta. What happened? Brady and the Patriots offense were a no-show. Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator for the Rams, shut them down. Only scored 13 points, but Belichick held what was the best offense in football, the number one offense in football, to a field goal. So I've always said Belichick's one of the greatest, if not the greatest defensive coach of all time. But in terms of being a head coach, yeah, he's average. Look at his record without Tom Brady. In Cleveland, in New England, if you combine those years, he's made the playoffs twice. That's it. That's what's going on with Belichick and the New England Patriots. It's all back to the Patriot way and the no answers at the podium, not telling anybody who the starting quarterback is, not really giving the media any information whatsoever. The things that we sort of like, it's just Belichick being Belichick. Well, it becomes a little bit harder to tolerate when you're sitting there at, what are they, 3-4? Yeah, 3-4. When you went 7-9 your first year with that Brady. When you went 10-6 last year with that Brady, but you stumbled badly down the stretch and got the doors blown off against the Buffalo Bills 47-17. And now this year's sitting once again below 500. We can criticize Brady this year, and I have. I'm a big Brady fan, but I've criticized him consistently. Check Monday's show. I was all over him for how he's played this season and what his leadership or lack thereof has been. But who won this split? It's not even close, okay? Brady won a Super Bowl his first year in Tampa Bay. His second year, I personally thought he should have been the MVP, but he had a career year, third best season of his NFL career. This year hasn't been great, but Belichick did a bad coaching job year one without Tom, a decent coaching job last year, and then once again, just pick a quarterback. Roll with Mac the rest of the year or roll with Bailey Zappi. Make a decision. Because name the time in NFL history that a team has used two quarterbacks in the same game, over and over and over. Name the time that that's worked. Even the great Tom Landry, Hall of Fame Dallas Cowboys coach, he tried that once. It was miserable. Didn't work at all. Never works. Offense has to build a certain amount of rhythm and camaraderie with the starting quarterback. You ask me, I would choose Zappi because I know what Mac Jones is. And I know what I've seen on tape from Bailey Zappi. He's comfortable. I think he's got a better arm than Mac Jones is. He's more accurate than Mac Jones is. I go with Zappi. But if you want to go with Mac Jones, which, by the way, reports yesterday said that Mac Jones took 90% of the first team snaps. If you choose Mac Jones, cool. Stick with him the rest of the year. And if he's awful, bench him in favor of Zappi, and then roll with Zappi the rest of the year. Don't make another decision. Because if you go back and forth, if you don't make a clear-cut decision, that's going to split the locker room. Because you saw a lot of Patriots guys in the locker room were like pro-Mac. Jacoby Myers was talking about, man, I thought it was messed up that they benched Mac. Stick with one guy, roll with him the rest of the year, then make your decision at the end of the season as to who your quarterback moving forward is. Or, possibly the better option, go draft a quarterback. Because I don't think either Zappi or Mac Jones are capable of being franchise quarterbacks. To me, they both strike me as backups. So if you're New England, I mean, this is a pretty quarterback-loaded draft. Stroud, Young, Hooker, Levis. That's a lot of good young quarterbacks coming out of this draft. So I'd at least consider it if I were the New England Patriots. I'm sure there's some comments in here. Again, today's show is not exactly live. I'm recording this earlier in the morning. So as I always say, anytime I do a pre-recorded show, if anything has happened, I am aware about it at the time you are, just not at the time that you are watching me right now. So, and Thursday, a lot of news seems to break on Thursday. So we'll see, possibly NFL trade deadline, I think, is either next week or the next. I can't remember. But by the way, Philadelphia getting not Fletcher Cox. He's been there for years. Getting Robert Quinn. Man, the rich get richer. The rich get richer. That is Jeffrey Lurie, and that is Howie Roseman saying as the old saying goes, F them picks. We are pushing all of our chips to the middle of the table. We're 6-0. The NFC is as weak as it has ever been in NFL history. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. Jalen Hurts is still in a rookie contract. We're not paying him anything. Go out and add A.J. Brown along with Devontae Smith. There's rumors they could go after a running back like a David Montgomery from the Bears, an Antonio Gibson from the Commanders. Like, man, if they make that running back room even deeper, you could see a lot of games from the Eagles that you've seen through the first 6, as well as what you saw from the Bears last night against New England. So, like I said, man, the rich just get richer. It's painful. Even though I'm not a Cowboys fan per se, I'm more just root for the Cowboys because my man Dak Prescott plays for him. I'm a Dak fan. I still don't like the Eagles. I still don't like the city of Philadelphia. And I made no mistake about that. It's probably the only city in the United States of America that I dislike more than Cleveland. Because I do not like Cleveland. I've made no bones about that. Okay? So, I'm going to have to pull for the Astros in the World Series, folks. And that makes me sick. Now, then again, at the end of the day, Dusty Baker gets a ring. Should Houston come through and get the dub over the Phillies. But, God, I did not want to make this decision. I mean, it's better than like 2000, what year it was? 2009, as my friend Barry Grant Jr. talks about all the time. Yankees, Phillies. But, Lord knows, with the way the Yankees looked, as reliant as they are on analytics, there was no way Yankees going to be in the World Series. No way.
Yankees lose.
Just a reminder for my friends in the Bronx. Anyways, moving on now to it's a Thursday. It's a Thursday tradition. Well, we need to just go ahead and set it in stone. I'm gonna have my time block ready for when I talk about this because it is something different every week with Aaron Rodgers. So he was on the Pat McAfee show, which he has every Tuesday. And the Packers have now lost 3 straight games. Started 3-1. They blew a double-digit lead to the New York Giants. They got housed at home by the New York Jets. And then they blew another double-digit lead, this time against Taylor Heineke and the Washington Commanders. So Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show. And he was talking about the Packers losing 3 straight games for the first time in 4 years. And he said, quote, "We had so many mental errors and mistakes. It's not the kind of football we're used to playing over the years. There have definitely been seasons where we averaged 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 at most, kind of mental errors or missed assignments per week. Some weeks you have like 4 or 2 sometimes. This season, there's a lot more of that every single week. It's double digits every single week. Even on the game, we had like 50 plays or something. There wasn't a ton of plays. They had 37 minutes time of possession. A lot of mistakes." He went on to say, quote, "I think when the players really take over, then you got to see the possibility of us making a run. I'm not talking about the players usurping power from coaches. I'm talking about we take over. We take ownership of what we're putting out on the field. Now, some of that may be in the plan. Some of that might be, hey, I really want to do this, offense, defense, special teams, whatever it may be. But the other part is taking ownership of your daily habits and your routines. Just because we're a young team, we just can't write that off as, oh, we're figuring it out. The rookies are figuring this thing out. Are they going to go through that rookie wall and blah, blah, blah?" And he said, quote, "Guys who are making too many mistakes shouldn't be playing, Got to start cutting some reps. Maybe guys who aren't playing, give them a chance." By the way, he also said in the same interview with Pat McAfee, as he is dissing his young teammates, he would go on to say that one of his quarterback coaches told him that it was his highest graded game of the season against Washington. Listen, it's not a surprise, obviously, at this point. I have been as critical as anybody of Aaron Rodgers' leadership, more specifically lack thereof. But I'm telling you, it never ceases to amaze me. So I'm telling you, when we talk about the all-time great quarterbacks, which obviously Aaron Rodgers is, there's no question about it. 4 MVPs, the passer rating, the yards, the touchdown. He's the greatest quarterback in the history of a franchise that has had some great ones. Aaron Rodgers is without question a top 10 quarterback of all time. Nobody's disputing that. But what has always separated him from the pantheon, the Mount Rushmore of Hall of Fame quarterbacks has never been talent. It's never obviously been the MVPs. I'm not so sure it's even the Super Bowls. Dan Marino doesn't have a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers does. It's this. It's the leadership. It is his inability to galvanize that locker room. It is his inability to know what to say, when to say it. And he had a media availability yesterday. So the Pat McAfee show interview, that's on Tuesday. He goes on Pat McAfee show every Tuesday. Yesterday, he was available to the Green Bay media. And he was talking about, he doubled down on his comments. He said, quote, "People in this society have a hard time hearing the truth sometimes." And he was asked whether it counts as good leadership to take his concerns public when he could have done it privately. Rodgers said, quote, "I did do it privately. I'm not saying anything publicly that I'm not saying to those guys." So maybe that's about, talking about a conversation that's behind closed doors in public, but the level of accountability is the standard here. Again, I don't think it should be a problem to any of those guys to hear criticism. We all hear criticism in our own ways, and we've got to all be okay with it, take it in, and process it. And if it doesn't fit, then it doesn't fit. But if it fits, we've got to wear it and improve on those certain things. I'm not going to be a robot up here. I understand why people have a problem with things that are truthful. You know, I'm calling things the way I see it. If people don't think I need to air that stuff out, that's their opinion. But I'm doing what I think is the best interest of our guys, and I've tried in a lot of different things from a leadership standpoint this year. And I was relating my personal feelings on the situation. I didn't call anybody out by name. Okay, Aaron, you don't have to. We know exactly who you're talking about. You're talking about your young receivers most specifically. Your Christian Watsons, your Romeo Doubs, some of the young guys defensively. That's exactly what you're talking about. Most specifically, though, on offense. I'll tell you, it never ceases to amaze me the lack of self-awareness this guy has. Could he just? I'm gonna say something crazy here. Could he maybe once? Because the Green Bay Packers are playing the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. They are going to get rolled. It's the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career, which as a starter spans now 15 years, I believe. First time in his career that he's a double-digit underdog. And he should be. The Packers should be. I've said before the season, they're a 9-8 football team. They're not going to make the playoffs. You're seeing that materialize right now. But Green Bay loses to Buffalo badly, which we all think they will. Let's say it's, 38-17 or something. Packers don't break 20. How about for a change, Aaron Rodgers goes in front of the media after that game, says, "You know what, guys? I got to play better." Because when a team loses 3 straight, looks like going on 4 straight games. When they lose 3-4 straight games, doesn't the quarterback bear at least just a little bit of responsibility? Just a little bit. Nothing crazy. We've seen great quarterbacks on bad teams before. Aaron Rodgers is putting up stats that are the lowest of his career in terms of QBR, passing yards, passing touchdowns, yards per game. They're all career lows. I have been on the record numerous times defending Aaron, by the way, saying that you have a Hall of Fame quarterback, and this is all you're going to give him in terms of receivers? Okay, Sammy Watkins, who can't stay healthy, Randall Cobb, who can't stay healthy, Alan Lazard, 2 kids, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. This isn't going to work. Got 2 really good running backs, Thunder and Lightning, with Aaron Jones and with A.J. Dillon. Got a really good offensive line. But we know you can't be a one-dimensional offense and win a Super Bowl in 2022. You can't. You got to have multiple dimensions. You got to be able to do multiple things, beat teams multiple different ways. Packers can't do that. Like used to, their thing last year was grab a lead, play from ahead. Aaron Rodgers is the all-time front runner at the quarterback position. He's never been great playing from behind. And we rolled a victory. This year, they actually have been building double-digit leads over teams. Okay, they had a double-digit lead over the Giants, lost. Had a double-digit lead over the Commanders, lost. So now they can't even hold leads. Now, some of that, as I've detailed numerous times, is on Matt LaFleur. I've always said Matt LaFleur is a below-average coach. In terms of in-game adjustments, he's awful. There's a reason the Packers are a bottom 3 team in the NFL in points scored in the second half. That points to coaching, but also points to the quarterback. Let's not act like Aaron Rodgers isn't without blame. Okay, because he isn't. When you talk about in a situation now where the Packers are sitting there at 3-4, some of these guys may not be feeling too great about themselves. The morale of the team isn't great. That is the moment when leadership has to step up. Now, we know Matt LaFleur is not a natural-born leader. Not all coaches are rah-rah guys. That's fine. I've been as critical as anybody of Jimmy Garoppolo. I've never questioned his leadership skills. His teammates love him. You saw when Trey Lance went down, and knock on wood for Trey Lance. Hopefully he continues to recover from that terrible ankle injury. But it's like when Jimmy Garoppolo came to the game, it's like the 49ers players were like levitating. It was incredible. Like the whole morale of the team changed. Because Jimmy G, for all his limitations, is the heart and soul of that 49ers team. Since when, in Aaron Rodgers' 15-year career as a starting quarterback in the NFL, have we sat back and like, you know what? He really galvanized the locker room right there. That was an all-time leadership performance on the part of Aaron Rodgers. We've seen it from Brady. We've seen it from Mahomes. We've seen it from Allen. We've seen it from Burrow. We've seen it from heck, even in the past, a guy who looks awful right now. You're going to talk about him a little later. Russell Wilson. We've seen the occasional performance from him back when he was in Seattle. Derek Carr. Lord, we saw like 15 of those performances last year. We've seen it from Dak. Okay, we've seen it from Lamar. We've seen it from Jalen Hurts. I have yet to see it from Aaron Rodgers. That going through adversity, hanging in there, and willing your team to victory, again, not taking the credit. I think there's a famous thing I heard, I think it was Colin Cowherd talking about it, that Eli Manning would appear to the press after losses, and then when the Giants would win, he wouldn't appear in front of the press. That is leadership personified. Okay? I'm going to take the bullets when we lose, but you're going to give my teammates credit when we win. Who would not want to play for that guy? So it's remarkable just seeing how it continues to just over and over and over materialize itself in the fact where the Packers are in dire need of leadership, a guy to really galvanize them. And once again, Aaron Rodgers steps to the plate and does literally the exact opposite. Taking shots at everybody without taking an ounce of accountability for himself. That's who he's always been. That's why I've criticized guys like Jay Cutler in the past, Kyler Murray now, heck, Russell Wilson now. There's got to be a point where the quarterback's got to step in and say, guys, I'm not playing well. There's no other way around it. You can search for all the excuses. Some of them, by the way, valid. If you're talking about young receivers, not a very deep receiving unit at all, defense underperforming, coaching Matt LaFleur. I prefer my quarterback not point out all of those flaws, but all of those are totally justified. But could you hold a double-digit lead over Washington? Not over Kansas City, not over, Philadelphia. It's Washington, guys, on their backup quarterback who cannot score points. You tell me he doesn't deserve at least just a little bit of blame? But again, why are we not surprised? Moving on now to only NBA topic of the day. My Golden State Warriors, who are sitting there at 2-2, they got a game tonight against the Miami Heat. I'm actually going to go see the Warriors on Saturday play the Charlotte Hornets. Biggest knock on wood ever in the history of this show that the Steph Curry is not injured like he was last time I wanted to go see him play last year against the Atlanta Hawks in Atlanta. Steph, of course, was injured by Marcus Smart about a week and a half before that game, and so that was that. So please, nobody in Miami hurt Steph tonight. Please, I'm begging you. I want to see my favorite player of all time on Saturday. But Golden State plays Miami tonight. They're sitting there at 2-2. And through the first 4 games this season, their defense has been simply atrocious. In terms of defensive efficiency, Golden State is in the bottom 10, which that is the opposite of what the Warriors have been under Steve Kerr, really, since he's been there. Really, take the 1 year out, take 2019-20 out where they won 15 games and KD was gone. They traded Iguodala. Steph was hurt. Clay was hurt. Draymond didn't play that many games. There's a bunch of kids that were tanking. Take that year out. I'm talking about the years where they were, actively trying to win games, as obviously most teams do during the season. But through the first 4 games, they gave up 109 against the Los Angeles Lakers. Not awful, but it's the Lakers. They're completely inept on offense. They can't shoot. 109 is a little much. 128 against the Denver Nuggets. 125 against the Sacramento Kings. And then 134 on Tuesday night against the Phoenix Suns. So thus far through the season, by the way, you want to ask how they are offensively? They've been great. Steph Curry's been great. Draymond Green. This is the best offense I've seen from Draymond since like 2016. He's scoring in double figures. He's not, as Charles Barkley famously called him, Mr. Triple Single in the regular season. Draymond's aggressive on offense. He's taking advantage of the spacing that Steph, Clay, and Jordan Poole creates on that dribble handoff, getting in the pick and roll. Guys aren't scared of Draymond scoring, so he's taking advantage. I think he scored like 14 the other night against Phoenix. But defensive rotations are slow. There's numerous numerous examples of teams getting wide open buckets down low, wide open dunks, wide open layups, because there's a pick and roll and there's no communication between two Warriors players. It happened a couple times with Steph and Jordan Poole. It happened once, I think, between Draymond and Wiseman once. Like it is over and over and over. Now, am I panicking? No, there's 78 games to go. There's plenty of time for Steve Kerr to get this fixed. I never forget 2 years ago, which was the year before the championship season, the 2020 through 21 season, when Golden State got off to a horrendous start, not just in terms of team. They were bad offensively, but defensively, they were atrocious. And they gave up like 120-something against Brooklyn, gave up about that much against Milwaukee, struggled against Chicago. Portland had a big game against them. Like, they were horrible defensively by the end of the season. And keep in mind, this is no Clay. Jordan Poole wasn't what he is now. Okay? You didn't have Wiseman at the end of the season. Kevon Looney played a smaller role. There was no Gary Payton. Golden State was a top 10 defensive team in the NBA. So do I think they can fix this? Yeah, I do. And especially offensively. It's not like they can't score, okay? Because through the first 4 games, 123, 123, 130, 105. It's not been an issue for them this season. It's just been that defensively, I don't know if it's just being a little too slow, getting beat constantly off the dribble. That's some of it. They're not awful in the interior. Wiseman's done a great job. I think Wiseman's been really good off the bench for the first 4 games. Kevon Looney's been solid down low. Okay, your 2 big guys. Draymond Green as well. But perimeter defense, it's been horrible. Not communicating on pick and rolls. Excuse me. And you saw Steve Kerr in the second half of that game against Phoenix trying to make the adjustment of, okay, we're just going to switch everything, which coaches often do when you're having trouble communicating on that, or if they're just constantly getting whatever matchup they want. So for Golden State moving forward, again, they got Miami tonight, who's an offensively challenged team. We saw that in the playoffs. We've seen that in spurts through the first part of this season. They got Charlotte on Saturday with no LaMelo Ball. They've got the Detroit Pistons sitting there at 1-4. So this is a great opportunity. They got a 5-game road trip after this game tonight against Miami. This is a great opportunity to get their defense right. This is a great opportunity to really improve on that side of the floor so you can really try and build some momentum around Thanksgiving. And then once you can do that, go on and win 64 games, which I said the Warriors would do coming into the season. I'm still confident, still feel good about my guys, but I'm just saying, defensively, just terrible. But how about that game Tuesday night, though, between Golden State and Phoenix? Just fantastic basketball game. You have Clay and Devin Booker going back and forth. Clay actually got ejected. Yes, you heard me right. Klay Thompson, for the first time in his 12-year career, got thrown out of an NBA basketball game. And it was him and Devin Booker going back and forth, and Klay's holding up the 4 rings, talking about, I got 4 rings. You don't have any rings. Sounds a lot like Shaq and Chuck. on Inside the NBA. It's like a little bit of a tribute to those guys. And it was cool too. Devin Booker after the game was talking about, I want to be Klay Thompson. He's always been my inspiration as a two guard coming into this league. And you see some similarities. Devin Booker's obviously a better offensive player, I think, than Klay's ever been. Klay's more of a catch and shoot guy. He's never really had that ability to beat you off the dribble. But he could shoot over you. He's got the fadeaway. Obviously, everybody and their mama knows he can shoot. He's one of the greatest shooters of all time. We know Devin Booker is a tremendous shooter, but he's a more natural two guard than Klay is, I think, in terms of getting to a spot whenever he wants, however he wants to get to a spot and getting shots off. And Devin Booker played really well the other night. He scored, was it 34? Yeah, 34 and 10 for 19 shooting. So Devin Booker was excellent. Chris Paul played pretty well, 16 points, 9 assists. And look, part of this too, because this was a very intense game for it being whatever it was, October 25th. Because this felt like it was Phoenix's NBA Finals. Because we know how they got humiliated. They had a 2-0 lead on Dallas, just like they had a 2-0 lead on Milwaukee in the NBA Finals the year before that. End up losing in 7 games, including Game 7, on their home court. Just being humiliated isn't even a good enough word to use. Okay, they were shamed in front of the NBA world by the Dallas Mavericks in Game 7 of the playoffs last season. And so you have that aspect. You have the dynamic between Monty Williams and DeAndre Ayton. You have the fact that Chris Paul is not getting any younger. The bench isn't what it used to be. Jay Crowder looks like is going to end up being traded. He's away from the team right now. So you have a lot of questions surrounding the Phoenix Suns. Hey, you hear that? And by the way, they're still talented. I picked them to be the 7th seed this year because of all those issues that I just detailed. But they're looking at this game like, okay, these are the defending champs. We know that they're struggling defensively. We can get pretty much whatever shot we want. We shot well from three-point range. Okay, Phoenix, Phoenix made 12 threes the other night, shot 40% from long range. And so, they looked at this as a really big measuring stick game for them. By the way, that's the reality if you're the defending champs. That's how it goes for every defending champion in every sport. Teams measure, even if they suck, even if they're tanking, they measure how good they are based on how they play against you. That's just how it works. So, credit to the Phoenix Suns. The interesting thing was it was a close game at halftime. It was like a 4-point game at the break, and Phoenix goes on to win by 29. Klay Thompson gets thrown out. But Steph was okay, a little shaky. Draymond, I thought, played very well. Wiseman was good. Jordan Poole that kid is smooth, man. That kid is something else. It's amazing. 2 years ago, Jordan Poole was in the G League. And now he's on a $140 million contract and just balling out every game. Love Jordan Poole. But as far as my Warriors are concerned, got to improve the defensive end of the floor. I want to start seeing that tonight. Again, especially considering the fact that it's an offensively challenged Miami Heat team. It's often Jimmy Butler or bust because Tyler Hero is as inconsistent as they come. Bam Adebayo is better on the defensive side of the floor than he is offensively. Golden State can maybe get him in the pick and roll a little bit, get some mismatches with him on Steph or him on Jordan Poole. So you see what they can possibly do on that side of the floor, but Golden State has got to be better defensively. But moving on to the Denver Broncos, who are in a little bit of a pickle. So a report came out from Dan Graziano, who's an excellent reporter from ESPN, that said that if the Denver Broncos lose on Sunday in London against the Jacksonville Jaguars, that they will strongly consider firing Nathaniel Hackett, the head coach. Again, this is his first year. He's only 7 games in, but Denver's sitting at 2-5. They are, by every metric you look at, the worst offense in the NFL. Again, I don't know why I keep saying this because it keeps making me look worse, but I picked them to win the Super Bowl, which, again, I don't know why I keep saying that, but I do. I hold myself accountable for really crappy picks. But what would this do for the Broncos? First of all, should they fire Nathaniel Hackett? Listen, I don't think the Jaguars game should be the sort of the thing you look at as to whether or not you should fire a head coach 8 games in. I think 7 games has told you enough that he is completely incapable of managing the clock. He is awful in late game situations. Okay, despite the fact that Denver has a top 5 defense. Okay, offensively, there is zero creativity. There's no motion. There's nothing that really keeps the defense guessing. So yeah, I've said Nathaniel Hackett needs to be gone by midseason since like week 2 or 3. Because you can tell pretty quickly if a guy can coach. Brian Dable. Okay, if you bet the New York Giants would be 6-1, if you went to Las Vegas, you went to one of these betting websites or apps, and you bet the New York Giants would be 6-1 through 7 games, you, my friend, are a genius. Because the rest of us, nobody saw this coming. Nobody in New Jersey or New York or wherever, nobody saw this coming. But Brian Dable has done a masterful job. Okay, masking Daniel Jones' flaws. Again, a little bit doing what Matt Eberflus did with Justin Fields the other night. Playing to his strengths, not putting him in positions to make mistakes like he had for the previous 3 years of his career. Relying on Saquon Barkley, relying on really good defense. We could tell right off the bat, 2-3 games in, okay, Brian Dable can coach. Likewise, conversely, you can see that Nathaniel Hackett is not an NFL head coach. He's not. I'm not 1,000% sure he's even a coordinator. Because in Green Bay, Matt LaFleur called the plays. Not Nathaniel Hackett. Now Nathaniel Hackett is calling plays, and you're saying that's working out. Now, here's the only downside of that. I'm good with them firing Nathaniel Hackett, win or lose against Jacksonville on Sunday. But the only downside is this. Then what happens with Russell Wilson? Because we're looking at Seattle, and Geno Smith, to me, is the runaway favorite for comeback player of the year. Has played out of his mind. Pete Carroll's done a phenomenal job. By the way, that Seattle defense that was so bad the first part of the season, it's been great lately. It's been great. Which Pete Carroll is the defensive coach. You would expect that to be the case, but they've had some injuries on that side of the ball. They're not terribly deep at some of those key positions, especially in the secondary. Pete Carroll's made it work. Offensively, the Seahawks can run the ball well. They're great in the passing game. And here's Russell Wilson in Denver. Now, some of this is Nathaniel Hackett. But now you got the reports of him doing high knees and stretching for 4 hours on the plane. And you see all these meme accounts making all these jokes about Russell Wilson doing like the Dak dance with the hips and saying, let's ride as Broncos team. I was like, bro, go to bed. Like, I want to get some sleep before we get to London, and my schedule's all jacked up by the time change. Like, just shut up. But he's talking about he's got the Wolverine blood, and like, dude, just cut it out. But what it means for Russell Wilson is, okay, the big problem is at the building. Nathaniel Hackett. Now what you going to do? Because if Russell Wilson plays poorly the second half of the season, because Broncos not make the playoffs. In a loaded AFC, you think that Denver team that we've seen through 7 games go make the playoffs? They're not. So if Russell plays poorly the last part of the season, that makes the Denver job very unattractive. Because now you look at the Broncos, you say, okay, well, I've got the defense. Their defense is outstanding. We're good there. But offensively, I've got a quarterback who's locked up for 5-6 years, who in the total of his contract is going to be paid $250 million, who looks like a below average quarterback on a good day. Why would I take that job? Maybe I could be a Brian Dable type guy and mask Russell Wilson's flaws like Brian Dable is masking Daniel Jones' flaws, or like Robert Saleh is masking Zach Wilson's flaws. But I don't know. I'm just looking at this. Like I said a few weeks ago about the Broncos, they feel absolutely trapped with Russell Wilson. With the contract, with obviously, they don't feel trapped with Hackett because they can go ahead and fire him. You can fire a coach easily. Okay, remember what the San Francisco 49ers did? They had a different coach every year from 2014 to 2017 until they got it right. Okay, they fired Harbaugh in 2014, which I thought was a horrible decision. Look what Jim's doing at Michigan. Okay, they had Jim Tom Sula in 2015, disaster. They fired him after 1 year. Chip Kelly in 2016, disaster. They fired him. Kyle Shanahan in 2017, they haven't looked back. Been to a Super Bowl, been to an NFC Championship game. Kyle Shanahan's a brilliant coach. So you can move off a coach easily in this league, which it looks like the Broncos are going to do. It's a credit to them that they're not holding like so many people have done in the past, Jerry Jones, and holding tight to their head coaches and saying, this is the guy we just got to give him time. Bro, you could tell when somebody's not good and when somebody is good. In any industry, by the way. You see on America's Got Talent or American Idol, when someone comes on and they're, the only reason they're on there is because mommy told them that they were good, and they absolutely fail miserably and Simon Cowell rips them into shreds. Or you have somebody go up there and like, oh my gosh, sign them to a record company right now. You could tell pretty quickly. Now, the average in between, that's when it gets a little dicey. You're like, are they great or the This is easy. Nathaniel Hackett is a bad head coach. He is not qualified to be in that position. Go in and pull the plug, which it looks like the Denver Broncos are going to do soon, to their credit. All right, we've got a big Thursday night football game tonight. Thursday night football between the Baltimore Ravens and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let's get right into the prediction. Tampa Bay in this game. And then scoring 3 points against the Carolina Panthers. They're 2-point favorites in this game, which makes no sense to me. Maybe it's the Tom Brady effect. Maybe it's that they're at home. Maybe it's a lot of people in Vegas like, you know what? There's one guy you don't bet against. You don't bet against Tom Brady, which we know is one of the cardinal sins in sports is you never bet against Brady. But I'm sorry. There's 7 games this year. You look at Tom's numbers. You look at the Bucs defense, by the way, has started to sort of fall off a cliff a bit. They're bad on third down. They've struggled at times to get to the quarterback. They haven't gotten a whole lot of takeaways this season. So I'm looking at this, though. On the other end, you got Baltimore sitting there. Okay, Lamar Jackson has had a couple rough games. Didn't play well against Cleveland this past game. Had a bad interception. We know 2 bad interceptions, both against the Bills and against the Giants. So Lamar Jackson knows it's a short week going into Tampa. This is a big game for him. We know about the contract situation. That'll be handled after the season's over. But Lamar Jackson is sitting there after getting off to an incredible start to the first 3 games. Just lighting the world on fire against the Jets, against the Dolphins, and then against the Patriots. Since then, hasn't been very good. So I think there's a level of pressure on Lamar Jackson that is not on Tom Brady. Because honestly, I think when we've watched Tampa through the first quarter of the season or first third of the season, what are our expectations of Tampa? Are we expecting them to go out and make a championship run? Are we expecting Tom Brady to be what he used to be? Just a year ago. Sure, but not as much as we are from Lamar. Because there's far more Lamar doubters than there are Brady doubters. Obviously, for good reason, because Brady's the GOAT. But I think this is Lamar's opportunity. 3 straight bad games to step up, remind the world of who he is. Remember the last time he played Tom Brady, he played very well. With that said, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win this game. Somewhat of an upset because Tampa Bay's favored by 2, 27-16. Again, Baltimore's secondary struggled this year, but they've gotten, they played well in recent weeks, did okay against the Giants as well as against the Browns. And by the way, against Cincinnati, did a great job against Joe Burrow, which we saw what Joe Burrow did to the Falcons last week. Baltimore's secondary has played slightly better than it did certainly in the beginning of the season. So give me the Ravens to win this game over the Buccaneers, 27-16. And hopefully I start this week 1-0. Was it 9-5 last week? 9-5. So there's some interesting games. By the way, I said at the beginning of the show that there'd be a fun fact for week 6. I'm sorry, for week 8. One game features 2 teams with winning records. One game. That game features, as we all predicted before the season, by the way, the Seattle Seahawks and the New York Giants. Can't make this stuff up. This is why we love the NFL. This is why we love the NFL. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving It Up Live tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. Also, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Carving It Up YouTube channel. Also, subscribe to the Grid Network. That is Grid, G-R-Y-D, the Grid Network, where all of my shows, all of clips from my shows, as well as the shows like the All Even Podcast, Clutch Sports Talk, Chaotic Sports, Rocket Fuel, Jets podcast. We got all the podcasts in the business, man. We're trying to build this network from the ground up. We got the Grid Network on YouTube, as well as Apple, Spotify. By the way, that's where you can find my audio shows, my podcast episodes you want to listen to on the drive to work, or if you're going out for a run, whatever, to listen to Carving It Up Live. Also, some merch is available. Check that on my stories on Instagram. The link is right there. So be sure to check that stuff out. And then what am I missing? Oh, yeah, be sure to follow me on social media. Instagram at Carving It Up Podcast, Twitter at Carving It Up Pod, and then Facebook, where we air shows on Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Search Bryson Carver, and you should see the Carving It Up logo pull up there. All right. Hope everybody has a great evening. See y'all tomorrow. Stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. I hate that I have to pull for Houston. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.